He could see how much time the people had left to live, but then she outlived that limit. The subway car lurched forward, and Oliver Wade pressed himself against the metal pole, knuckles white. Above every head in the crowded car, numbers glowed in pale blue light. The woman beside him had 32 years, 7 months, 14 days. The teenager across from him had 61 years, 2 months, 9 days. The businessman checking his phone had 8 years, 3 months, 22 days. Oliver closed his eyes. It didn't help. It never helped. He'd been seeing the timers since he was 7 years old, since the day he drowned in Lake Morrison and his uncle pulled him out after 3 minutes underwater. When he woke up coughing lake water onto the dock, the numbers were there, hovering above his mother's head as she sobbed and held him, floating above the paramedic who checked his vitals. 21 years later, they hadn't stopped. The subway doors opened at Central Station. Oliver moved with the crowd, keeping his gaze low. Eye contact invited conversation. Conversation meant connection. Connection meant watching someone's timer count down while you pretended everything was fine. His phone buzzed. Henry. Still coming tonight, right? Claire will kill me if you bail. Oliver stopped walking. Commuters flowed around him like water around a stone. His thumb hovered over the screen. He typed, "Not feeling great." The reply came immediately. "You're never feeling great. It's an art show, not an interrogation. 7 p.m., I'm picking you up." Oliver shoved the phone into his jacket pocket. His apartment was 12 blocks north. He could make it without taking the subway back. Walking meant fewer people, fewer timers. The afternoon sun felt wrong on his skin. Too bright, too warm for October. He bought coffee from a cart, ignored the vendor's friendly smile, and kept moving. His apartment building was a narrow brownstone wedged between a laundromat and a bodega. The landlord never fixed anything, but the rent was cheap, and the neighbors didn't try to chat in the hallways. Oliver climbed 3 flights of stairs, unlocked 2 deadbolts, and shut the world out. The apartment was dim. He preferred it that way. His laptop sat open on the kitchen table, spreadsheets glowing in the darkness. Data analysis paid well, and he could do it from home. No office, no coworkers, no timers except his own reflection in the bathroom mirror. Oliver didn't look at mirrors much anymore. He worked until his eyes burned, then showered and dressed in the least wrinkled shirt he owned. Henry arrived at 6:55, punctual as always. "You look terrible," Henry said, grinning. "Thanks. I mean it as a compliment. Very tortured artist. Claire's friends will love you." Oliver locked the door behind him. "I'm not an artist." "You're tortured, though. That's halfway there." Henry was 23, finishing his 2nd year of medical school, and constitutionally incapable of letting Oliver disappear completely. He'd been 11 when Oliver pulled away from everyone, old enough to notice, young enough to refuse to accept it. The gallery was in the warehouse district, a converted factory space with exposed brick and industry-round wine tables, voices echoing off high ceilings. Oliver's chest tightened. Numbers everywhere, a sea of glowing blue countdowns. "Here." Henry pressed something into his hand. "Claire got you a ticket. Just walk around, look interested, and try not to terrify anyone." Oliver palmed the anxiety medication and swallowed it dry. The exhibition was called Futures, Youth Perspectives. Children's artwork covered the walls, paintings of rockets and families and dogs, crayon drawings of houses with too many windows, a sculpture made entirely of bottle caps. Oliver moved through the crowd mechanically. Above a woman in a red dress, 43 years, 6 months, 2 days. Above an elderly man studying a watercolor, 11 months, 18 days. Above a young couple holding hands, 57 years for her, 61 for him. He turned a corner into a quieter section and saw her. She stood in front of a massive canvas covered in handprints, every color imaginable. Her dark curly hair was pulled into a messy knot at the base of sizes too big. She was as laughing at something a small boy was saying, her whole face bright with it. Above her head, the timer read 14 days, 6 hours, 23 minutes. Oliver stopped breathing. The woman crouched down to the boy's level, said something that made him giggle, then ruffled his hair. She straightened, and her eyes swept the room. They landed on Oliver. For 3 seconds, they looked at each other. Her smile didn't fade, but something shifted in her expression. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition of something she couldn't name. Oliver's heart hammered against his ribs. 14 days. 2 weeks. He turned and walked quickly toward the exit, pushing through clusters of people, ignoring Henry calling his name somewhere behind him. The night air hit his face like cold water. His hands were shaking. At home, Oliver sat in the dark and stared at nothing. He'd seen short timers before. The man with 3 days who'd been hit by a car. The woman with 2 weeks who'd had an aneurysm in the grocery store. The teenager with 9 days who'd overdosed in a park bathroom. He tried to warn people in the beginning. They never believed him, or they thought he was insane or dangerous. After the first few times, he'd stopped trying, but he couldn't stop seeing. Oliver opened his laptop. The gallery website listed participating artists and teachers. He scrolled through names and faces until he found her. June Martinez, 26 years old, muralist and art instructor at Riverside Community Center. In the photo, she was covered in paint, grinning at the camera like she'd never known a sad day in her life. 14 days, Oliver thought. He closed the laptop. He didn't sleep. Oliver returned to the gallery 3 days later. The exhibition was smaller on a weekday afternoon. A board attendant sat at the front desk scrolling through her phone. Above her head, 54 years, 2 months, 7 days. Oliver looked away. He moved through the space slowly, pretending to study the artwork. The massive canvas covered in handprints was still there. A placard beside it read, "Created by students of Riverside Community Center, ages 6 to 12. Instructor, June Martinez. Can I help you find something?" Something? Oliver turned. An older woman with silver hair and kind eyes smiled at him. Gallery coordinator, probably. Her timer read 19 years, 8 months, 3 days. "The community center," Oliver said. "Riverside. Do you know where it is?" "Oh, sure. About 15 blocks east, near the waterfront. They do wonderful work with local kids." She tilted her head. "Are you interested in volunteering?" "Maybe. Thank you." Oliver left before she could ask more questions. Riverside Community Center was a squat brick building wedged between a parking garage and a closed-down diner. Faded murals decorated the exterior walls, dragons and phoenixes and children holding hands in a circle. The paint was chipped in places, but the colors still blazed. He stood across the street for 20 minutes, watching. A group of teenagers left through the front doors, laughing and shoving each other. A woman carried a box of supplies from a van. No sign of June. This was insane. What was he doing? Oliver walked 3 blocks, stopped, turned around, and came back. He did this twice more before finally crossing the street. The lobby smelled like floor cleaner and old coffee. A bulletin board covered one wall, layered with flyers for tutoring services and ESL classes and youth art programs. Behind a desk, a man with headphones nodded to music Oliver couldn't hear. "Help you?" the man said, not removing the headphones. "I'm looking for information about art classes, adult classes." The man pointed at the bulletin board without looking up. "Schedules posted, registrations online." Oliver found the flyer. "Introduction to Painting, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 8 p.m. Instructor, J. Martinez." His heart beat faster. He registered that night, sitting in his dark apartment with the laptop screen casting blue light across his face. The class started in 2 days. He had basic information memorized. June Martinez, 26, muralist, worked at Riverside for 3 years. Her Instagram showed photos of massive wall paintings, wings spreading across buildings, flowers blooming from concrete, faces emerging from swirls of color. In every photo where she appeared, she was smiling. 11 days. Sweetie, Oliver thought, looking at a picture posted that morning. She was standing in front of a half-finished mural, brush in hand, paint streaking her forearms. 11 days until the timer hit 0. Henry called on Tuesday afternoon. "You disappeared from the gallery. Claire was worried. I wasn't feeling well." "You're never feeling well." A pause. "You want to tell me what's actually going on?" Oliver stared at the ceiling. "If you knew someone was going to die, someone you didn't know, would you try to help them?" The silence stretched long enough that Oliver thought the call had dropped. "Oliver," Henry said finally, his voice careful. "Is this about the timers?" "Forget I said anything." "Wait, don't. Is it someone specific? How long do they have?" "I shouldn't have brought it up." "Days? Weeks?" Henry's medical training kicked in, practical and immediate. "If someone's in danger, you should call the police or a hospital. You can't—" "I have to go. I'll talk to you later." Oliver ended the call. At 5:45, he stood outside Riverside Community Center with his hands in his pockets. Through the windows, he could see people gathering in a bright room on the second floor. His medication sat heavy in his stomach. He'd taken 2 pills instead of 1. He climbed the stairs. The classroom was cluttered and alive. Easels formed a loose circle around the room. Shelves overflowed with supplies. Jars of brushes, tubes of paint, palettes crusted with dried color. Music played from a speaker in the corner, something jazzy and warm. June stood near the windows, setting up canvases. She wore the same paint-stained jeans and a green flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Her hair was down tonight, wild curls framing her face. Above her head, 11 days, 14 hours, 8 minutes. She looked up and saw him. Recognition flickered across her face. "Hey, you were at the gallery." Oliver's throat closed. He managed a nod. "You're here for the class?" She smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "That's amazing. I'm June." "Oliver." "Great to meet you, Oliver. First time painting?" "Yeah." "Perfect. No bad habits to unlearn." She gestured to the easels. "Pick any spot you like. We're starting with basics tonight. Color theory, brush techniques, nothing too intimidating." 6 other students filtered in over the next 10 minutes. An older woman with gentle hands, 2 college-aged friends who couldn't stop giggling, a middle-aged man in a business suit who looked deeply uncomfortable, a teenager with headphones around his neck, another woman, younger, who sat in the corner and avoided eye contact with everyone. June moved through the room like light through water. She knew everyone's name, asked about their days, made them laugh. When she stood at the front to begin the lesson, the scattered energy of the room focused on her completely. "Art isn't about perfection," she said. "It's about seeing, really seeing. Colors, shapes, the way light falls across a surface. Tonight, we're going to learn to see blue." She held up a canvas painted in gradients, midnight blue bleeding into sky blue, bleeding into something almost white. There's no such thing as just blue. There's the blue of morning, the blue of deep water, the blue of a bruise, the blue of ice, the blue of distance. She set the canvas down. "Today, you're going to paint blue. Your blue. Whatever that means to you." Oliver stared at the blank canvas in front of him. June moved through the room as they worked, stopping beside each student, offering guidance. When she reached Oliver, she crouched beside his easel. "You haven't started yet." "I don't know what I'm doing." "That's the best place to start." She picked up a brush, dipped it in Prussian blue, and made a single stroke across his canvas. "There. Now it's not blank anymore. Now you're just continuing." She handed him the brush. Their fingers didn't touch, but he felt the warmth of her proximity. 11 days, he thought. He made a stroke, then another. June smiled. "See, you're already painting." The 2 hours passed faster than Oliver expected. Around him, students chatted and laughed, compared canvases, made mistakes, and covered them with more paint. June moved through it all like a conductor, encouraging, adjusting, celebrating small victories. Oliver's canvas was dark, layers of blue so deep they were nearly black, thick, with thin lines of lighter color breaking through like cracks. "That's stunning," June said, steadying it as the class ended. "Intense, but stunning. What made you choose that?" "It's what I saw." She looked at him for a long moment. "Yeah, I believe that." The other students filed out. Oliver cleaned his brushes slowly, making himself the last to leave. June was wiping down tables. "So, did I scare you off, or will you be back Thursday?" "I'll be back." "Good." She tossed the rag aside and leaned against the table. "Can I ask you something?" "At the gallery, you looked at me like you'd seen a ghost. Why?" Oliver's hands stilled. "I don't know what you mean." "Okay." She didn't push, but something in her eyes said she didn't quite believe him. "Well, see you Thursday, Oliver." Outside, the night air was cool and clean. Oliver walked 12 blocks before he realized he was going the wrong direction. 11 days. He had 11 days to figure out how to save someone who didn't know she needed saving. Oliver followed her for 2 days before he realized how badly he was failing. He kept his distance, half a block behind when she walked to the coffee shop on 7th Street, across the park when she took her morning route through the waterfront path, far enough back that she wouldn't notice him in the grocery store on Wednesday evening. But distance meant he couldn't actually protect her from anything. He watched her nearly step into the street while checking her phone, but a cyclist shouted a warning before Oliver could reach her. He saw her slip on wet leaves outside her apartment building, but she caught herself on the railing. He was too far away to matter. On Wednesday afternoon, June climbed scaffolding beside her mural project, a massive piece covering the side of a community theater. Oliver stood across the street, heart hammering, watching her work 3 stories up. The scaffolding swayed slightly in the wind. A bracket looked loose. He could see it from here, the metal joint not quite secure. June shifted her weight, reaching for a paint can. The bracket groaned. Oliver started running, but he was across a 4-lane street, dodging traffic, too far, too slow. The time he reached the building's base, a construction worker had already noticed the problem and was calling for June to come down. She descended carefully, laughing about it with the crew. "Guess that's enough for today." Oliver stood behind a parked van, breathing hard, useless. 7 days, 9 hours. That night, he registered for the second painting class. Thursday evening, June greeted him with the same bright smile she gave everyone. "Oliver, you came back." "I said I would." "People say a lot of things." She handed him a palette. "Tonight we're doing portraits. Partner up. You'll be painting each other." Oliver's stomach dropped. The older woman from Tuesday, whose name was Margaret, paired up with the businessman. The 2 college friends chose each other. The teenager worked alone by choice, painting from a photo on his phone. That left June's corner student, a young woman named Tessa, and Oliver. And June had an odd number. "Looks like you're stuck with me," June said, pulling a stool across from Oliver's easel. "Hope I'm not too intimidating." Oliver couldn't speak. 6 days, 22 hours, 14 minutes. "Okay, everyone, you're not trying to capture photographic accuracy. You're trying to capture essence. What do you see when you really look at someone?" June settled onto her stool and looked directly at Oliver. "Ready?" He picked up a brush with numb fingers. Looking at June, really looking, the way she'd instructed, was almost unbearable. The way her curls fell across her forehead, the pain stain on her jawline she'd probably forgotten about, the small scar through her left eyebrow, the brightness in her eyes that suggested she'd never met a stranger, only friends she hadn't talked to yet. The timer above her head, counting down. "You're staring," June said, "but you're not painting." "Sorry." "Don't apologize. Staring is the whole point," she grinned, though usually people at least pretend to look at the canvas occasionally. Oliver forced himself to paint. His hand moved across the canvas in dark, heavy strokes. "And I ask what you do?" June said. "For work, I mean." "Data analysis." "From home?" "Yeah." "Must be nice. Quiet." She tilted her head slightly, studying him the way he'd been studying her. "Or maybe too quiet?" "Sometimes. I can't work in quiet. I need noise, people, chaos. When I paint alone, I put on podcasts or music or terrible reality TV just to fill the space." She laughed. "We'd be a disaster as roommates." The image came unbidden, June in his quiet apartment, filling it with color and sound and life. 6 days. "Your turn to ask me something," June said. "That's how conversations work." Oliver's brush paused. "Why art?" Deep question right out of the gate, but she considered it seriously. "I don't know. Why does anyone do anything? It makes me feel like time matters, like I'm leaving something behind that says I was here, you know? Every mural, every painting, it's proof that this moment existed." She gestured around the room at the students working. "And teaching lets me give that to other people, the feeling that what they create matters." Oliver's chest tightened. "That probably sounds pretentious," June added. "No, it doesn't." The 2 hours passed. Around them, portraits emerged, some skilled, some clumsy, all earnest. Oliver's painting was dark again, but June's face emerged from the shadows with more life than he'd intended. Her eyes especially. He'd spent too long on the eyes. June came around to look at it when class ended. She went very still. "Is that how you see me?" Oliver looked at the canvas. He'd painted her surrounded by darkness, but somehow bright against it, like she was the only source of light in the frame. "I don't know," he said quietly. She touched his shoulder briefly. "It's beautiful, Oliver. Sad but beautiful." The other students filtered out. Oliver cleaned his space slowly again, hyper-aware of June moving around the room. "Hey," she said. "Group of us are getting coffee down the street. You should come." "I don't really..." "Do groups, crowds, people in general?" She smiled, but it was gentler now. "Yeah, I picked up on that. But it's just Margaret and the college kids. Small, low-key, and you might have fun. 6 days, 18 hours. Okay?" Oliver heard himself say. The coffee shop was warm and crowded. Above the barista, 41 years, free. 3 months, 19 days. Above Margaret, 18 years, 7 months, 2 days. Above the college students, 56 years and 62 years. Above June, 6 days, 17 hours, 53 minutes. They claimed a corner table. Margaret talked about her grandchildren. The college students, Amy and Rachel, argued cheerfully about some movie Oliver hadn't seen. June ordered a cinnamon latte and a blueberry muffin she picked apart but barely ate. "You're quiet," June said, leaning closer so he could hear her over the ambient noise. "I'm always quiet." "Fair, but you're extra quiet right now. Regretting coming?" "No." And he wasn't. Despite the timers, despite the crushing weight of knowing, there was something almost peaceful about sitting in this bright corner with these people who didn't know they were dying, who didn't know June was dying faster than all of them. "Can I tell you something?" June said suddenly. "You don't have to respond, but at the gallery last week when I saw you, I felt like I recognized you. Not like we'd met before, like I knew you anyway. Does that sound insane?" Oliver looked at her, really looked the way she'd taught him. "No," he said, "it doesn't sound insane." 6 days. After coffee, he walked June to her car, a beat-up Honda with a faded bumper sticker that said, "Create more than you consume." "Thanks for coming tonight," she said, unlocking the door. "I know it probably wasn't easy for you." "June," his voice cracked slightly, "do you ever feel like time's running out?" She went very still. For a moment, something flickered across her face. Recognition, fear, understanding. Then she smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "All the time," she said softly. "Every single day." She got in the car and drove away. Oliver stood in the parking lot long after her taillights disappeared. Her timer burned into his vision like an afterimage. 6 days, 15 hours, 11 minutes. He pulled out his phone and texted Henry. "There's someone, she doesn't have long." The response came immediately. Then maybe she deserves to know someone cares. Oliver looked up at the sky, dark and clear and full of stars that were already dead, their light, but still traveling across impossible distances. He couldn't save June from distance. He had to get closer. Over the next 4 days, Oliver inserted himself into June's life with surgical precision. He showed up at the community center on Friday afternoon, claiming he wanted to see the mural she'd been working on. June lit up, gave him a tour of 3 different projects scattered across the neighborhood. He watched her climb ladders and leap across scaffolding gaps with casual confidence that made his heart stop. "Careful," he said when she stretched too far to reach a corner. "I've been doing this for 6 years, haven't fallen yet," she grunned down at him. "You worry a lot, don't you?" "Yes." "About everything or specific things?" "Everything." She climbed down, paint-stained and slightly breathless. "Must be exhausting." 5 days, 11 hours, 32 minutes. On Saturday, he offered to drive her to the art supply store when she mentioned needing materials. Her Honda had a check engine light that had been on for 3 months. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I'm going that direction anyway." He wasn't. But she accepted. And for 45 minutes, he kept her in his passenger seat, where he could see her, protect her, make sure nothing happened. She talked the entire drive. About the kids she taught, about the mural project's funding struggles, about a documentary on Frida Kahlo she'd watched 3 times. Oliver mostly listened, hyper-aware of every car that came too close, every traffic light, every potential hazard. "You're gripping the steering wheel really hard," June observed. Oliver forced his hands to relax. "Bad driver anxiety?" Something like that. At the store, June debated between paint brands with intense focus, holding tubes up to the light, testing colors on her wrist. She moved through the aisles like a kid in a candy store, and Oliver followed, carrying her basket as it grew heavier. "You sure you don't mind?" she asked, adding a 5th canvas to the pile. "I'm sure." 4 days, 19 hours, 8 minutes. Sunday, June invited him to watch her teach the kids' class at Riverside. Oliver sat in the back of the bright room while a dozen children aged 6 to 12 created chaos and art in equal measure. June was different with them. Still warm, still encouraging, but there was something else, a fierceness, like she was pouring everything she had into making sure they felt seen. A small girl with braids showed June a painting of a purple cat. June crouched down, studied it with complete seriousness, then said, "This is magnificent. Tell me about your cat." The girl beamed. During a break, while the kids cleaned brushes, June sat beside Oliver. "What do you think?" You're good at this. I love it. She watched the children with soft eyes. Most of these kids, their families don't have money for art classes. Some of them don't have stable homes. But for 2 hours a week, they get to make something beautiful. They get to matter. She pulled a pill bottle from her bag, took a tablet with water from her bottle. Vitamins, she said, catching his glance. I'm terrible at remembering breakfast. 3 days, 23 hours, 14 minutes. By Monday, Oliver knew June's routine better than his own. Morning walk at 7, coffee shop on 7th at 8:15, community center by 9:30, lunch usually skipped or eaten while working, evening classes twice a week, home by 9 on other nights. He also knew she was tired more than she let on. She hid it well, but he saw the way she leaned against walls when she thought no one was watching, the way she sometimes pressed a hand to her chest and breathed deliberately. Henry called Monday afternoon. Bring her over for dinner. What? Your person who's running out of time. Bring her to meet me. Claire wants to meet her too. Henry, if she matters this much, I want to know her. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. I'm making pasta. Oliver started to argue, then stopped. 2 days, 8 hours, 43 minutes. Okay. June said yes immediately when he asked. I'd love to meet your brother. I didn't even know you had a brother until just now, which tells me you're very good at not talking about yourself. I'm working on it. I've noticed, she smiled. You're less locked down than when we met. That's good. Tuesday evening, Oliver picked a den up from her apartment, a third-floor walk-up with succulents on the fire escape and wind chimes by the door. She wore a yellow dress and had actually done something with her hair. Too much? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. No, you look, Oliver's voice caught. You look really nice. 1 day, 16 hours, 59 minutes. Henry and Claire's apartment was small and cluttered with medical textbooks and Claire's photography equipment. Henry opened the door, took one look at June, then glanced at Oliver with sudden understanding in his eyes. June, I've heard absolutely nothing about you because my brother's a vault, but come in. Claire hugged June like they'd known each other for years. Within minutes, June was helping in the kitchen, laughing at Henry's stories about their childhood, asking Claire about her gallery exhibition. Oliver watched from the doorway, memorizing this. June, alive, animated, fitting seamlessly into his life like she'd always been there. She's wonderful, Henry said quietly, appearing beside him. How long? Tomorrow night. Henry's face went pale. Oliver. I know. After dinner, they played cards. June was terrible at poker, laughing every time she tried to bluff. Claire won 3 hands in a row. Henry accused her of counting cards. It was normal, easy, perfect. Oliver's phone buzzed at 9:30. Weather alert, severe thunderstorm warning. June checked her own phone. I should get home before it hits. They said goodbyes. Claire hugged June again. Henry clasped Oliver's shoulder, squeezed hard, said nothing. In the car, June was quiet for the first time all evening. Your brother's great, she said finally. He likes you. Good, because I like him. She looked at Oliver. And I like you. I know we just met, and maybe this is weird, but I feel like I've known you longer, like we skipped some steps. 23 hours, 8 minutes. Oliver's hands tightened on the wheel. June, you don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. She smiled, in case it wasn't obvious. The first drops of rain hit the windshield. They were 3 blocks from June's apartment when Oliver saw the other car. It ran the red light. That at full speed, heading directly for the driver's side. Oliver didn't think. He yanked the wheel hard right, his car jumping the curb, clipping a trash can, slamming to a stop against a fire hydrant. The other car blew through the intersection and disappeared. Silence. Then June's voice, shaky. What just happened? Oliver's hands were trembling on the wheel. The airbags hadn't deployed. They were fine. They were alive. Oliver. June's voice was sharper now. That car wasn't going to hit us. We were stopped at the light. Why did you? She stopped, turned to look at him fully. You've been watching me, she said slowly. The supply store, the coffee, you showing up at the community center when I'm working. I thought you were interested. But this, her voice cracked. Were you following me tonight? Answer me. Rain pounded the roof. Oliver couldn't look at her. I was making sure you got home safe. From what? She was breathing hard now, scared and angry. What's happening? Why are you acting like I'm about to... She stopped again. The silence stretched impossibly long. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. Oliver, what's wrong with me? He finally looked at her. Her eyes were wide, frightened, searching his face for answers. I can't let anything happen to you, he said, and his voice broke completely. I can't. June stared at him. Then she opened the car door and walked into the rain. June, wait! But she was already gone, yellow dress disappearing into the storm. Oliver sat in his wrecked car with his head against the steering wheel and watched her timer count down. 19 hours, 34 minutes. June didn't answer her phone. Oliver sat outside her apartment building in a rental car. His own was in the shop, watching her windows. The lights came on around midnight. She was home. She was safe. 14 hours, 22 minutes. He didn't sleep. At 6 in the morning, his phone finally rang. We need to talk, June said. Her voice was raw. Coffee shop on 7th. Now. She was already there when he arrived, sitting in the back corner with 2 untouched cups on the table. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Her eyes were red. Oliver sat down slowly. I'm going to ask you a question, June said, and I need you to tell me the truth, no matter how insane it sounds. Can you do that? Yes. Do you know when I'm going to die? The coffee shop sounds, the hiss of the espresso machine, the murmur of morning conversations, seemed to fade into nothing. Yes, Oliver said. June closed her eyes. Her hands were shaking around her cup. How? So he told her. All of it. The drowning at 7 years old, waking up different, the timers that never stopped. 21 years of watching people count down, of knowing and being unable to change anything. The people he'd tried to warn, the failures, the isolation. I see them above everyone's heads, he said quietly. Years, months, days, hours, minutes. Counting down to the exact moment their body will give out. June's face had gone very pale. And mine? 14 days when I first saw you at the gallery. Now. He checked, even though he'd been checking constantly. 12 hours, 18 minutes. I knew something was wrong, and I ignored it. Oliver reached across the table, took her hands in his. They were ice cold. What do we do? June asked. Can we change it? If I go to the hospital right now? I don't know. No one's ever believed me in time to try. Then we try now. They left the coffee in the rental car. June called her cardiologist from the car, got an emergency slot at 11. The morning traffic was thick. Oliver drove with rigid focus, hyper-aware of every second passing. 10 hours, 43 minutes. The cardiologist was a woman in her 50s, with efficient hands and concerned eyes. She ran tests, EKG, echocardiogram, blood work. June sat on the examination table in a paper gown, looking smaller than Oliver had ever seen her. Your ejection fraction is low, the doctor said, studying the screen. Lower than your last visit 8 months ago. Have you been taking your medication consistently? Yes, every day. The chest pain, how long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. The doctor's expression tightened. June, this is serious. Your heart is working much harder than it should be. I want to admit you for observation, possibly surgery, depending on what the tests show. Surgery? June's voice was very small. We'll know more in a few hours, but yes, it's a possibility. 8 hours, 19 minutes. They admitted June at noon. Oliver stayed in her room, sitting in the plastic chair by the window, while nurses came and went, checking vitals, asking questions, adjusting IV lines. June watched the clock. What if this doesn't work? She said quietly. What if the timer's absolute? What if I die on that table during surgery? Or, you won't. You don't know that. No, Oliver admitted, I don't. June was quiet for a long moment. Then, tell me something true. Something about you that isn't about death or timers or any of this. Oliver thought. I used to paint before the drowning. Watercolors. I was actually good at it. Why'd you stop? It felt wrong to create things when I could only see endings. June reached for his hand. He took it. If I survive this, she said, you're painting again. Deal? Deal. 6 hours, 32. 2 minutes. The surgeon came at 4, young, confident, with steady hands. We're going to do a catheter-based procedure, less invasive than open heart surgery, but it should address the valve issue we found. You'll be under anesthesia. The procedure takes about 2 hours. 2 hours. The timer read 5 hours, 58 minutes. When? June asked. We're prepping the OR now. 30 minutes. They wheeled June away at 4:30. She looked back at Oliver once, her eyes huge in her pale face. 5 hours, 14 minutes. Oliver sat in the waiting room. Henry arrived 20 minutes later, still in scrubs from his hospital shift. Any news? She's in surgery. Henry sat beside him. They didn't talk. There was nothing to say. The minutes crawled. 4 hours, 30 minutes. 3 hours, 51 minutes. 3 hours, 12 minutes. At 6:30, the surgeon emerged. The procedure went well. She's in recovery. Heart rhythm looks good. She should wake up in the next hour or so. Oliver couldn't breathe. She's okay? She's stable. We'll monitor her overnight, but yes, she should be fine. 1 hour, 43 minutes. Oliver was allowed into recovery at 6:50. June lay in the hospital bed, pale and still, monitors beeping steadily around her. An oxygen tube ran under her nose. Her eyes were closed. Oliver pulled a chair close and took her hand. 1 hour, 8 minutes. 53 minutes. 37 minutes. At 7:15, June's eyes fluttered open. She looked at Oliver, focused slowly. Hi, she whispered. Hi. Did it work? Am I... You're alive. 22 minutes. June's grip on his hand tightened. They watched the clock together. 7:20, 7:25, 7:30. Oliver looked up at the timer above June's head. 14 minutes. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. June's breathing was steady. The monitors showed normal rhythms. Everything was fine. 3 minutes. Oliver, June whispered. I'm scared. I know. I've got you. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. June's eyes went wide. Her free hand clutched at her chest. Something's wrong. The monitors started screaming. June gasped, her whole body became rigid, and then she collapsed back against the pillows. The room erupted. Nurses flooded in. Someone pushed Oliver back. A doctor shouted orders. Crash cart, paddles, clear. Oliver watched from the doorway as they worked on her. Compressions, medications, shock. The monitors flatlined, then jumped, then flatlined again. Come on, someone said. Come on. Shock again. The monitor beeped. Once. Twice. A steady rhythm. We have a pulse. Oliver's legs gave out. He slid down the wall, sat on the floor, and watched them stabilize June. 4 minutes, they said later. She'd been gone for 4 minutes. But she came back. When they finally let him see her again, June was unconscious but breathing. Oliver stood beside her bed and looked up. Where the timer should have been, there was nothing. No numbers, no countdown, just empty space above her head. In 21 years, Oliver had never seen that before. Not once. June woke at 3 in the morning. Oliver was still in the chair beside her bed, exactly where he'd been for 8 hours. He hadn't left, couldn't leave. Her eyes found him in the dim light. I died. It wasn't a question. Yes, but I'm here. She lifted her hand slightly, ivy line trailing. I'm still here. Oliver nodded, unable to speak. June was quiet for a long time, just breathing, feeling her own heartbeat. Finally, what does my timer say now? Nothing. Nothing. There's no timer anymore. Just blank space where it should be. June processed this. Is that normal? For people who've been resuscitated? I don't know. It's never happened before with anyone I've seen. A nurse came in, checked vitals, adjusted medication. She smiled at June. You gave us quite a scare. How are you feeling? Tired. Confused. Alive. All good signs. The nurse patted her arm. Try to get more rest. Doctor will be by in the morning. When she left, June looked at Oliver again. You should go home. Sleep. I'm fine here. Oliver, I'm not leaving. Something in his voice made June stop arguing. She closed her eyes, and within minutes her breathing evened out. Oliver watched the empty space above her head and tried to understand what it meant. The day blues blurred together. June remained in the hospital for observation. 72 hours minimum, the cardiologist said. Her heart rhythm stabilized. The post-operative recovery looked good, but the doctors were puzzled by the sudden cardiac arrest. The procedure went perfectly, the surgeon told them on the second day. There's no medical reason your heart should have stopped like that. June met Oliver's eyes across the room. On the third day, Henry visited during his lunch break. He brought flowers and terrible hospital cafeteria coffee. You're the famous June, he said, grinning. You look better than the last time I saw you, which makes sense, given that you were dead. Henry, Oliver said sharply. What, too soon? But Henry's expression was kind when he looked at June. Seriously, though, you scared the hell out of my brother. I haven't seen him this rattled since... He stopped. Actually, I've never seen him this rattled. June glanced at Oliver, who was studiously examining the floor. He saved my life, she said quietly. Yeah, he's good at that. Knowing things, I mean, even if no one believes him. Henry squeezed Oliver's shoulder. I'm glad you did. After Henry left, June said, he knows about the timers. He's the only one who ever believed me. Because he's your brother? Because he's Henry. June smiled slightly, then winced, pressing a hand to her chest. Pain? Oliver was on his feet immediately. Just sore. I'm fine. But she let him adjust her pillows, bring her water, fuss in ways she probably didn't need. You're going to drive me crazy if you keep hovering. Probably. I don't mind that much. On the fourth day, they discharged June with strict instructions. Rest, medication, follow-up appointments. No strenuous activity for 6 weeks. Oliver drove her home, her apartment with the succulents and wind chimes. I can manage, June said as Oliver insisted on carrying her bag up 3 flights of stairs. I know you can. Inside, her apartment was exactly what Oliver had imagined. Canvases everywhere, some finished, most in progress. Bookshelves overflowing. Plants on every surface. A cat he hadn't known about. An orange tabby named Saffron, wound. And around his ankles. Your brother fed her while I was gone, June said, settling carefully onto her couch. I texted him my spare key location. Of course you did. June patted the cushion beside her. Oliver sat, maintaining careful distance. We should probably talk about what happens now, June said. You rest, you recover. That's what happens. I meant with us, with... She gestured vaguely between them. This. Oliver had been avoiding thinking about this. I don't know. You watched me die because you've been seeing my death coming for 2 weeks. That's... I don't even know what that is. Terrifying? Intense? Impossible to process? All of those. And now I don't have a timer. June pulled her knees up carefully, wrapped her arms around them. What does that mean? Am I going to die tomorrow? Next week? Or did you somehow? I don't know, Oliver said again, helplessly. They sat in silence. Saffron jumped onto June's lap and purred loudly. I need to tell you something, June said finally. When I died, those 4 minutes, I don't remember anything. No white light, no dead relatives, nothing. Just nothing. And when I woke up, my first thought was that I hadn't finished the mural, that those kids wouldn't get to see it completed. She laughed shakily. Isn't that stupid? I came back from death worried about a painting? It's not stupid. I've spent my whole life knowing my time was limited. I thought I was living fully because of it. But I wasn't. I was just busy, filling every moment so I wouldn't have to think about the moments running out. She looked at Oliver. You saved me. And now I don't know what to do with this life I wasn't supposed to still have. Oliver took her hand carefully. Figure it out. You have time now. Do I? Do either of us know that? Before Oliver could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost declined. Then something made him answer. Mr. Wade, this is Dr. Abigail Frost. I'm a researcher at the Institute for Parapsychological Studies. I believe we corresponded several years ago regarding a questionnaire you filled out about temporal perception anomalies. Oliver went very still. How did you get this number? I have alerts set up in hospital databases for specific types of medical events. Unexplained cardiac arrests followed by successful resuscitation. Your name appeared in the visitor logs for June Martinez. I remembered you from the questionnaire. You described seeing what you called countdown timers. I've been trying to reach you for years. I'm not interested. Mr. Wade, please. I've been studying cases like yours for 20 years. I know of 3 other individuals worldwide with similar abilities, and I believe I know what happened to Ms. Martinez. Oliver looked at June, who was watching him with wide eyes. What do you mean? Could we meet? I'm in the city. Tomorrow, if you're available. I think you need to hear what I've learned. Oliver closed his eyes. Where? Dr. Frost gave him an address, a research facility near the university. They agreed on 2 in the afternoon. When Oliver hung up, June said, Who was that? Someone who might have answers. To what? Oliver looked at the empty space above her head. To why you're still alive. The next afternoon, they took a cab to the institute. June had insisted on coming, despite Oliver's protests. If this is about me, I'm not sitting home wondering. Dr. Frost met them in a small office cluttered with books and papers. She was in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and sharp, kind eyes. Above her head, 23 years, 4 months, 16 days. Mr. Wade, Ms. Martinez, thank you for coming. She gestured to chairs. I'll be direct. What you see, Mr. Wade, it's not death, it's natural death. The body's biological expiration date, the moment when the system would naturally fail without intervention. I know that, Oliver said. I've watched it happen for 21 years. But Ms. Martinez didn't die naturally. She died from a specific cardiac event, and she was brought back through medical intervention. She died outside her timeline. Dr. Frost pulled out a file. I've documented 3 similar cases, people who were resuscitated after the moment they should have died. In all 3 cases, the timer disappeared. June leaned forward. What happened to them? Dr. Frost's expression grew careful. 2 of them died anyway, within 6 months. The 3rd, I lost contact with her 3 years ago. I don't know if she's still alive. The words hung in the air like smoke. So I'm gonna die anyway, June said quietly. Just later? I don't know. The sample size is too small. But, Dr. Frost hesitated. In the 2 cases I tracked fully, the deaths were unusual. Accidents that seemed almost corrective, as if the universe was adjusting for the error. Oliver felt cold. What kind of accidents? One was a car crash. The other fell downstairs in her own home, both within months of their resuscitation. June stood abruptly. I need air. She walked out. Oliver started to follow, but Dr. Frost stopped him. Mr. Wade, I can't tell you if she's safe, but I can tell you that you gave her something. Time she wouldn't have had. Whatever happens next, that matters. Oliver found June outside, sitting on a bench, staring at nothing. He sat beside her. I don't want to live in fear, she said. I don't want to spend however long I have waiting for the universe to correct its mistake. Then don't. How? Oliver didn't have an answer, so he just took her hand and held it, while the city moved around them, full of people with timers counting down, living their lives without knowing. And June, with no timer at all, squeezed back. The first incident happened 6 days after June left the hospital. She was crossing the street near the community center when a taxi jumped the curb, tires screaming. Oliver, walking beside her, yanked her back hard enough that they both stumbled. The taxi corrected, swerved back into traffic, kept going. June stood on the sidewalk, breathing hard. Did that driver even see us? Oliver's heart was hammering. I don't know. That was close. Too close. The second incident was 3 days later. A small fire broke out in June's apartment building, faulty wiring in the unit below hers. Everyone evacuated safely, but June had been asleep when the alarm went off. Oliver had been there, staying over on her couch because she'd been having nightmares. He'd woken her, gotten her out. Lucky you were here, she said afterward, standing on the street in her pajamas while
The firefighters worked. Lucky. The third incident was the food poisoning. June ordered takeout from a restaurant she'd eaten that 12 times before. Within 2 hours, she was violently ill. Oliver rushed her to the emergency room. The doctor said it was severe, but she'd be fine. 16 other people got sick from the same restaurant that night, the ER doctor told them. Health department's investigating. But June was the only one who'd ended up hospitalized. Oliver sat in her apartment while she slept off the medication, and he made a list. Near miss with taxi, day 6. Building fire, day 9. Food poisoning, day 12. 3 incidents in less than 2 weeks, escalating in severity. His phone rang. Dr. Frost. Mr. Wade, how is Miss Martinez? She's had 3 close calls in 12 days. Silence on the other end. Then, that matches the pattern I observed. The corrections start small, they escalate. It's as if, she paused. This will sound unscientific, but it's as if something is trying to restore balance. How do I stop it? I don't know if you can. The 2 cases I documented fully, the corrections didn't stop until they died. Yes. Oliver ended the call. When June woke that evening, she found him at her kitchen table, surrounded by notes. What are you doing? Trying to find a pattern. Times of day, locations, triggers. Oliver, she sat across from him. Stop. If I can predict when... Stop. Her voice was firm. Look at yourself. You're not sleeping. You barely eat. You follow me everywhere like you're waiting for something terrible to happen. Something terrible is happening. Maybe. Or maybe these are just accidents. Normal accidents that happen to people every day. She reached across the table, put her hand over his notes. I can't live like this. With you treating me like I'm made of glass. With both of us just waiting. I'm trying to protect you. I know. But you can't protect me from everything. And if you try, we're both going to suffocate. Oliver stared at their hands. I can't lose you. You don't have me to lose. Not really. Not yet. June's voice softened. We've known each other for 3 weeks, and most of that was you knowing I was going to die. We've never just existed together, without the countdown. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I. But we have to try. Or this, us, it won't survive anyway. The next morning, June went back to teaching her kids' class at the community center. Oliver went with her, sat in the back, tried not to watch for threats in every corner. A little boy named Marcus showed June a painting of a superhero. He can fly, and he's got laser eyes, and he never gets scared. Everyone gets scared sometimes, June said gently. Even superheroes. Not him, he's too strong. June glanced back at Oliver. Being strong doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing the brave thing anyway. After class, June asked Oliver to drive her to the mural site. She hadn't been back since before the hospital. The community theater wall stood half-finished. The lower portion showed children with outstretched arms, reaching toward wings that were sketched but not yet painted in the upper section. I need to finish this, June said. You're supposed to be resting, no strenuous activity for 6 weeks. It's been 4 weeks, and I'll be careful. Please, Oliver, I need to do this. Against his better judgment, he helped her set up. June worked slowly, painting in small sections, taking frequent breaks. Oliver spotted her from below, hyper-aware of every wobble of the scaffold, every gust of wind. By sunset, she'd completed 1 full wing, brilliant blues and golds that seemed to glow in the fading light. It's beautiful, Oliver said when she climbed down. June looked at the wall with satisfaction. It's better when it's finished, but yeah, it's getting there. That night, Henry called. Bring her over. We're having people over. Just Claire's photography friends and some classmates, low-key. I don't think... Oliver, June's right. You can't lock her in a tower. Come over. Have a normal evening." The gathering was small, 8 people crammed into Henry and Claire's living room, eating pizza and arguing cheerfully about everything from politics to whether the movie was better than the book. June fit in immediately. She talked to Claire about art and exhibition on spaces, listened to Henry's stories about terrible patients, made everyone laugh. Oliver sat slightly apart, watching. Above the guests, timers counted down. 62 years, 47 years, 51 years. Normal lifespans, normal deaths. Above June, nothing. "You're doing it again," Henry said, dropping onto the couch beside him. "Doing what?" "Watching her like she's going to disappear." "She might." Henry was quiet for a moment. "When I was 11, you stopped coming to my baseball games. Mom said you were going through something, that I should give you space. I didn't understand it then." "Henry, I'm not angry. I'm just saying, I watched you disappear for 17 years. Watched you choose isolation because you couldn't handle what you saw." He looked at Oliver directly. "Don't do it again. Don't disappear from your own life because you're afraid of loss." Across the room, June laughed at something Claire said. Her whole face lit up. "What if I can't protect her?" Oliver asked quietly. "Then you can't. But you can be with her. There's a difference." On the drive home, June was quiet. "What are you thinking?" Oliver asked. "That I like your brother. That I like your life, the parts of it I've seen. That I want to be part of it." She looked at him. "But I need you to let me in, really in, not just as someone you're trying to save." Oliver pulled over, put the car in park. "I don't know how to do this," he said. "I've spent 21 years keeping distance from everyone because watching them die is unbearable. And then you," his voice cracked, "you were supposed to die, and you didn't. And now I don't know if that means we changed something or if you're just dying slower. And I don't know how to love you when I'm terrified every second that I'm going to lose you." June unbuckled her seatbelt, reached across the console, and kissed him. It was soft and brief and tasted like pizza and hope. When she pulled back, she said, "Everyone's dying slower, Oliver. That's called living. And I don't need you to protect me from it. I just need you to be in it with me." Oliver kissed her back, longer this time, his hand cupping her face like she was something precious. "Us and breakable and somehow still here." "Okay," he whispered against her mouth. "Okay." That night, Oliver slept at his own apartment for the first time in weeks. He forced himself not to text June every hour, forced himself to trust that she'd be there in the morning. She was. But 3 days later, June nearly stepped into an open manhole that shouldn't have been uncovered. The construction crew had left it unbarricaded for just 10 minutes. Oliver, walking beside her, caught her arm. They both knew. The corrections weren't stopping. 2 weeks after the manhole incident, Oliver told June everything Dr. Frost had said. All of it. The 2 documented cases, the timeline corrections, the deaths within 6 months. They sat on her couch with Saffron between them, and June listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "So I have maybe 4 more months," she said finally, "if the pattern holds." "We don't know that. The 3rd person disappeared. She could still be alive. Or she could be dead and Dr. Frost just doesn't know about it." June scratched Saffron behind the ears. "Either way, the universe apparently wants me gone." "June, I'm not being morbid, I'm being realistic." She looked at him. "I died, Oliver. I broke some kind of cosmic rule, and now reality's trying to fix itself. That's actually kind of fascinating from a philosophical standpoint." "It's not fascinating, it's terrifying." "It's both," she smiled slightly. "Everything important is both." 2 months later, the mural was nearly finished. June had worked on it steadily, carefully, always with Oliver watching from below. The wings now spread across the entire upper section of the wall, brilliant and fast, with the children reaching upward, as if they could fly. "1 more session," June said, studying the wall. "Maybe 2. Then it's done." The community center had scheduled an unveiling ceremony for the following Saturday. Local press would be there, the kids and their families, city council members who'd funded the project. "It's going to rain Saturday," Oliver said, checking his phone. "Severe thunderstorm warning. They should postpone." They're not going to.
Going to postpone because of rain. We'll put up canopies. June, I'm finishing this, Oliver. I have to. Friday morning, the storm warnings intensified. Severe weather alert, possible lightning, high winds. The community center director called June. We're pushing the ceremony to next week. Too dangerous with the scaffolding and the kids. June agreed, thanked her, hung up. Then she packed her painting supplies. What are you doing? Oliver asked. The ceremony's postponed, but I can still finish the painting today. Get it done before the storm hits. Absolutely not. You heard the warnings. The storm's not supposed to hit until tonight. I have hours. She met his eyes. I need to finish this. Please understand. No, it's too dangerous. It's a painting, Oliver, on a wall. It's not. Everything's dangerous for you now. Everything. And you want to climb 3 stories up on scaffolding during a storm warning? June set down her supply bag. Do you know what I thought about when I died? I told you before. I thought about this mural, about leaving it unfinished, about those kids never seeing what I promised them. Her voice was steady. I've spent 6 weeks jumping at shadows, waiting for the universe to correct me. And I'm tired. I'm tired of living like I'm already dead. So you're going to prove something by risking. I'm going to finish what I started. That's all. That's the only thing I can control. They stared at each other. If you go, Oliver said quietly, I'm coming with you. I know. The sky was gray but stable when they arrived at the theater. Wind gusted, but nothing severe yet. June climbed the scaffolding with practiced ease, Oliver following more carefully. At the top, the city spread out around them. From this height, you could see the waterfront, the downtown skyline, the community center where they'd met. June mixed paints, studying the wall. Just the final details. The faces need definition, some highlights on the wings. 2 hours, tops. She worked with focused intensity, and Oliver watched the sky darken. An hour in, the first drops of rain began to fall. June, we should go down. Almost done. The rain increased. The scaffold.
June swayed slightly in the wind. June, 10 more minutes. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Oliver's phone buzzed with emergency alerts. Severe thunderstorm warning. Seek shelter immediately. Now, June, please. She stepped back, surveying the wall. The mural was complete. Children reaching toward wings that seemed to lift them skyward, every face detailed, every feather perfect. Okay, she said. Let's go. The rain intensified as they started down. The metal scaffolding became slick. June moved carefully, testing each step. Lightning cracked across the sky. Then another bolt, closer, striking somewhere nearby. The sound was deafening. The scaffolding shuddered. June's foot slipped. She grabbed for the railing, caught it, but her supplies scattered. Paint cans tumbled, brushes fell, and she hung there for a terrible moment, feet scrabbling for purchase on the wet platform. Oliver lunged, grabbed her arm, pulled her back to stability. They pressed against the wall, breathing hard, rain soaking them. We need to move, Oliver shouted over the storm. Carefully, together. They descended slowly, testing every step, as lightning flashed and thunder shook the air. It took forever. The scaffolding swayed and ground. Twice more June slipped, twice more Oliver steadied her. When they finally reached the ground, June's legs gave out. She sat on the wet pavement, shaking. Oliver knelt beside her. Are you okay? I almost fell. She looked up at him, rain streaming down her face. That was stupid. That was so stupid. Yeah. You should be angry. I'm too relieved to be angry. He helped her stand, pulled her against him. You're alive. That's what matters. They stood there in the rain, holding each other, until the worst of the storm passed. 4 months later, Oliver and June stood on a different rooftop. Hers, the one with the wind chimes and succulents. June had been alive for 6 months since her death date. 6 months with no timer. 6 months of normal life, teaching, painting, laughing, living. The incidents had stopped after the storm. No more near misses, no more corrections. Dr. Frost had called it impossible, then fascinating, then unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Maybe the storm was it, she theorized. The final correction attempt, and she survived it. Maybe that's enough for whatever force was trying to restore balance. Maybe. Oliver didn't know, didn't trust it yet, but June was here, now, setting up canvases on the roof while the sunset painted the sky gold and orange. Okay, she said, handing him a brush. You promised when I survived you'd paint again. It's been 6 months.
time to make good. I don't remember what I'm doing. Neither do I half the time. That's the fun part. She squeezed paint onto 2 palettes. We're painting the sunset, or our interpretation of it, whatever that means to you. Oliver looked at his blank canvas, then at June. She'd pulled her hair up. She had paint on her cheek already, though they'd barely started. She was alive and solid, and here. He picked up the brush. His painting emerged slowly, dark at the edges, but bright in the center. Gold and orange breaking through shadow. It wasn't good, technically, but it was honest. June's was all color and movement, abstract swirls that somehow captured the feeling of the fading day. "See?" she said, grinning. "You're a natural." "I'm really not." "You're doing it, though. That's what counts." They painted until the light failed and the stars came out. Saffron appeared from somewhere, winding between their legs, purring. Oliver cleaned his brushes, watching June work on final touches. "I still don't see a timer on you," he said quietly. June looked up. "Good. Let's just see each other instead." She crossed the roof, kissed him with paint-stained hands, and sunset colors still bright in the sky behind her. "I love you," Oliver said against her mouth, the words falling out naturally, inevitably. "I love you too, even though you're catastrophically overprotective. I'm working on it. I know. You let me climb scaffolding in a storm. That's progress." That was terrifying. Everything important is. She pulled back, smiled. But we did it anyway. They gathered their supplies, headed downstairs. Oliver's phone buzzed. Henry, inviting them to dinner next week. Claire wanted June's opinion on a gallery space she was considering.
Airing. Normal life. Normal plans. In the apartment, June made tea while Oliver fed Saffron. The paintings leaned against the wall to dry, their first joint creation. June's phone showed a text from the community center. Photos of kids standing in front of the finished mural, arms outstretched like they were flying. "They love it," June said, showing Oliver. "Of course they do. It's beautiful." "We should go see it tomorrow, in person. I want to see their faces." "Okay." Tomorrow. Next week. Next month. Plans stretching forward into a future that hadn't existed 6 months ago. Oliver pulled June close, resting his chin on top of her head, feeling her heartbeat steady and strong against his chest. He'd spent 21 years knowing when people would die. But June had taught him something more important. How to live when you don't know. How to make plans anyway. How to love despite uncertainty. Maybe that was the real gift. Not seeing the end, but choosing to begin anyway. Outside, the wind chimes sang in the breeze, and the city stretched out below them, full of people counting down and people living, and the space between those two things where everything important happened. June pulled back, looked up at Oliver with those bright eyes he'd first seen across a gallery floor. "What are you thinking?" "That I'm glad I went to that exhibition." "Me too," she smiled, "even though you looked at me like I was a ghost." "You kind of were. Or you were going to be." "But I'm not." She took his hand, pressed it over her heart. "I'm here. We're here. That's enough." It was. Oliver's phone buzzed again, this time a text from Dr. Frost, asking for a follow-up interview about June's case. He'd call her back later. Right now, June was pulling him toward the couch, queuing up the terrible reality show she loved and he pretended to hate. Saffron jumped onto his lap. June curled against his side. Above her head, where the timer used to be, still nothing. Just June, alive, laughing at something ridiculous on screen. Just this moment. And the next one. And all the ones they'd choose to have together. Oliver closed his eyes and let himself believe in it. In living past zero. In beginning again.